Hello, this is Arkma, and I've got a wallop of a HOI4 game to show. Emphasis on wall. This time, we're loading into a vanilla game and going to the land of the two-headed eagle, Albania. Mission objective, don't fucking die. However, we'll be doing it a little differently than how you might go about this normally. Instead of flipping communist for the manpower buff, I'll be staying non-aligned and surviving with the House of Zog still in power. Let's get into the game and do a breakdown of the plan, since it's the most important part. Albania starts in a rather poor economic and military position. With a lack of manpower and economy, we have to pick our battles and use our industry to prepare for hell. Where Albania does have its benefits is its location and terrain. Mountains, hills, and the Adriatic Sea all must be utilized to its fullest to make sure we never capitulate. Starting with the military, we start with 3 divisions that don't have the manpower and guns to do much. So what I decided on doing was shrinking the infantry divisions by 4 combat width. This means that each division will be smaller and not as strong. However, this allows for the 3 divisions currently in the field to be fully equipped, which will be more valuable right now. These 3 divisions will be the only thing between us and our first opponent, Italy. Albania has 2 ports, which Italy will target constantly when we reject their ultimatum, so we need 2/3 of our army on them so they can't get a foothold. The 3rd division will sit between them so it can defend against the landing in an open tile, preventing a break in the defenses. This early part is important as it gives me time to build up the army for our next threat. Right off the bat, the mighty Albanian workers are going to start building a shit ton of forts. Just 1 level to start out, in these provinces here. These forts will be built up further throughout the game, either to level 5 or level 6, and will be our defensive line once the Axis powers defeat France and invade Yugoslavia and Greece. The terrain is almost all mountains, and will thus be an absolute meat grinder when I start increasing each division's entrenchment later. I'll also move some factories into anti-air on the map, so that I don't have to put them on divisions. Though we won't have air superiority, the Axis Air Force will have a bad time. As for factories, we will be getting some from the Albanian focus tree. Albania has the generic focus tree, which is not too shabby. I also built a military factory at some point, but the focus tree is where I'll get a majority of them. Research will be directed towards entrenchment. I want dozer blades for some support recon light tanks, as well as more research for engineer companies. Artillery will be added later, both as support and as a part of the divisions to help with defense. Add some research for infantry equipment of both guns and support, and you've got my game plan for the R&D division. With the build-up explained, let's hop into the game. For the first 3 years, we quietly bide our time until the suffering is upon us. The game maintains a historical path, Anschluss and all. 1939 arrives, and I've managed to get 1 more division out on the field, and I'm starting to add recon tanks. In May, the Italians send their ultimatum, because we are so important to the Italian Empire. But, since I've already spent 3 years preparing for a fight, and it would be messed up to let it all go, I reject it, and immediately we are at war. This is good for us, as I can finally raise the conscription law so we can start getting more divisions out. 4 is good, but we'll need more once Yugoslavia is broken. This part of the war isn't too bad. Italy will naval invade 3 tiles, but they are not landing. Our army has banned them with their guns. Italy quickly joins the Axis, so the Germans will get in on the same boat and attack the coast as well. The result is the same, as they too can't land. The level 5 anti-air I have built up will give their planes some nice new air holes. Eventually, World War II starts, and we get ignored for a bit. The British Navy may also be discouraging any attempts to naval invade. I do get to use this opportunity to join the Allies, which means that they can move troops into my territory. Even if they aren't made to hold too well, more bodies makes my job easier. The fall of France brings some return to naval invasions, but only death awaits them. Time skip to 1940. Germany has decided to call in their Balkan friends to go beat up Yugoslavia. By this time, I have 7 divisions, so I get them into position. The naval invasions are coming to an end, now we must hold the mountains. Now, Greece is still holding. The Italians have, for a second time, failed to invade a country. I have troops still based in the south, but it means I can use them if necessary, and still train troops with the manpower I have left. The Greeks eventually have to stave off the land forces of the Axis when Bulgaria joins against them. Now with 9 divisions, the defense of Albania truly begins. Kinda? The AI isn't too focused on me. They might occasionally attack, but they might be too scared of the defensiveness of each tile. With a lot of allied troops also in Albania, and Operation Barbarossa also happening at the same time, the Germans are already too stretched out to risk an offensive. So we just kinda... chill. Greece kinda flip-flops for a bit. Operation Dragoon goes into effect, but it kinda stalls. Barbarossa is a bit of a sticky wicket for the Germans, possibly more so than historically. The northern offensive stalls by Latvia, while the southern offensive makes solid gains. Unfortunately, that ends up being worse for the front, as the Germans get stretched like gum throughout the north. The Axis party gets even worse when the Allies decide to mass invade Italy, which goes extremely well. The entirety of mainland Italy is occupied/switches sides by July of 43, leaving the Germans and Balkans more vulnerable. Since my troops can't really push, I just stay chillin'. I do start messing around with this whole nuclear thingy, so we'll keep an eye on how that goes. The West starts to clean up as France and the Benelux are slowly liberated. By May of 1944, I have finished researching nuclear bombs. However, I can't build too many reactors in Albania, and it'll take time for the nukes to be built. It then becomes a race of who will win, the combined forces of the Allies and Germany, or some Albanians trying to finish a weapon of mass destruction. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it, but I survived. Hooray! But I want to use the bomb. Well, let's see what Japan's doing. Japan had an alright run, invading Indochina and Indonesia, but by now, they are not having a fun time. They've been kicked out of mainland China and are just waiting for the US to invade. Turkey just joined Japan. A rather surprising development, but that is a much closer target for a WMD. The issue is that the Turks declared war on the Soviets, who are probably going to steamroll them. Though I managed to get in, the Allies don't actually have air over Asia Minor. And since my air force only comprises of a few strategic bombers, I'm out of luck. So off to Asia then for Plan A. Japan too has red air. An unfortunate affair, but as I look for anywhere to use this devastating weapon that will cause mass destruction, despair, and pain, I realize another country is still alive and kicking. Siam. Siam has been fighting the good fight against the Allies while in the co-prosperity sphere, and it's rather surprising that they've held. Unfortunately for them, we have green air there, and thus, Bangkok is the first contestant of tragedy and misery. This doesn't end their defensive effort, though. A naval invasion by the Allies fails to take the capital, despite the literal devastation that just occurred. So, I just relax until the Allies eventually invade mainland Japan, which ends the war. With that, the war is over. Or is it? We actually get a choice to either declare neutrality in the upcoming Cold War or join NATO. Since we've been big chillin' with the Allies, I said screw it and join. How will the course of history be changed with mighty Albania in NATO? Well, given that we're a nuclear power, we might be responsible for the Cold War being the spicy war. But that is not my story to tell, as the game ends here. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a lot of fun to make and a lot of fun to play through. And I will see you sometime again soon. Maybe this same game, maybe in another map. I don't know. Fuck.